Good morning. I've got a helper who's going to help me today, Philip. Julia, do you want to come up and see? Because we've got a special picture that Philip's going to show in just a minute. You might want to come. You don't want to miss it. Okay, well, I have a question. How many of you like superheroes? Or kinda? This is interesting. This might fall flat, Philip. How many of you like Spider-Man? There's a few. All right. Well, I asked Philip, my grandson, to share a special picture of Spider-Man with you this morning. He received this picture as a Christmas present, and he's going to explain it to us now. You see this? So when it turns one way, you see one thing, and then when it turns another way, you see another. So first, when it turns so that Spider-Man is looking out, right? He sees all the enemies. So if you can't see it, he'll keep kind of going back and forth because I know you're at different angles. So who are some of the enemies, Philip?
You have Venom, Doc Ock, and Green Goblin.
All right. But then when you turn it another way, you see all of Spider-Man's allies or friends that are backing him up with their superpowers. And who are they, or what can some of them do?
Some of them can turn invisible or electrocute.
All right. Visible, electrocute. Wow. That's some superpowers, right? Declan's intrigued. So even though Spider-Man faced many enemies that didn't like him or want him to use his superpowers, he knew that he had all of his friends to back him up, right? And take care of these enemies facing him and to restore order and peace in his world. Well, when I saw this special picture, it reminded me of the Bible story of Elisha. Have any of you learned the story of Elisha in Sunday school or not? Well, we're going to go over it. So Elisha was a prophet of God, and he served God faithfully, and he did quite a few different miracles that were really interesting. And he worked with the prophet Elijah. So his name was Elisha, but before him was Elijah. So it kind of rhymes. But he was chosen to replace Elijah when Elijah's time of service was over. And in 2 Kings chapter 6, it tells us there was an angry king, the king of Aram, and he became very upset with Elisha the prophet. So I'm going to read the story from the Bible, but we're going to act it out. I'm going to be Elisha. Philip's going to be my servant. But I need, sorry, Philip. So I need someone to be, I need a king of Israel, a king of Aram, a couple of Aram's officers, and Israel, and the king of Israel's scouts. So who would like to be the king of Aram? All right. Max, I'm just going to have you stand here. Who wants to be with Max? A couple people with Max. Sadie, you want to come over and be with Max? Okay, this is King of Aram, and she's one of the officers. Who would like to be, do you want to be with over here? All right, Isla's going to be over here. She's going to be one of the officers. Who would like to be the king of Israel? I thought Scarlett would take that job. All right, and then we need a scout. Who wants to be a scout? Anybody? And does anybody else want to be up here, or do you want to sit? Leah, do you want to be up? Okay, you can go one of the other places, either one. And Peyton, do you want to be on one of them, or do you want to just sit and watch? That's perfect. What about you, Julia? Do you want to be on one side or the other? No. Okay, that's fine. All right, we're going to start our story, and we'll have Phil. Yeah, okay. So once, when the king of Aram was at war with Israel and the king of Israel, he said to his officers, "We will mobilize our forces." Pretend like you're saying, "We will mobilize our forces at such and such a time." Immediately, Elisha warned the king of Israel, "Don't go near that place, for the Arameans are planning to mobilize their troops there. So the king sent out a scout. So who's going to be a scout? Leo, be the scout. You can walk over there a little bit, kind of here. And to see if Elisha was right. And sure enough, he had saved them from disaster. So scout, come back. That happened several times. Then the king of Aram was puzzled. So he that's good. He called together his officers and demanded, which of you is the traitor? Oh, you're a good actor, Max. Who has been informing the king of Israel about my plans? And one of the officers, I like to say to him, it's not us, sir. Can you say it's not us? Yeah, good. Elisha the prophet tells the king of Israel, even the words you speak in the privacy of your bedroom. So the king of Aram said, go and find out where he is, and we will send troops to seize him. So the report came back. So they came back and they told you, king of Aram, Elisha is at Dothan. So now I have a question for all of you just for a minute. Who was telling Elisha, the prophet, where the Arameans were? Who do you think was telling him? God. God was telling Elisha. Yes, and then Elisha was warning the king of Israel because Israel were God's people, right? So one night the king of Aram sent a great army with many chariots and horses to surround the city. This is the army. You all are the army right now. When the prophet's servant got up, here's my servant, I'm the prophet, got up early the next morning and went outside, there were troops, horses, and chariots everywhere. Yes. And the servant said to the prophet, what do we do? Don't be afraid, for our army is bigger than theirs. Let's pray. Lord, open his eyes and let him see. And the Lord opened the young man's eyes, and he could see horses of fire and chariots of fire everywhere upon the mountain. So as the Aramean army advanced upon them, then Elisha prayed, Lord, please make them blind. And he did. So right now you are all blind. Then Elisha went out and he told them, you've come the wrong way. This isn't the right city. Follow me and I will take you to the man that you're looking for. And he led them right over to Samaria and the king of Israel. And then when they arrived, Elisha prayed and said, now, Lord, open their eyes. So you can all open your eyes now. And the Lord did, and they discovered that here they were with the king of Israel. And do you think then that the Israelites killed all the Arameans and got rid of this enemy? No. Then Elisha told the king of Israel to make a great feast for them and send them on their way, and the king did. And after that, the Aramean army raiders stayed away, so you go back over there, from the land of Israel. So that's our story, and now we're going to sum it up so you can sit back down. So, what happened? So we're going to kind of put this in perspective. Like Elisha's servant here, sometimes we face the enemy of fear as well, because he looked out, right? He looked out, and Philip the servant, and saw all these people, and he's like, what are we going to do? They're all coming at us. Because he didn't see what? He didn't see the angel armies, all of God's armies. And then their eyes were opened, and he could see all the angel armies that were there to protect. So we may not face an army like Elisha did, or enemies like, what were some of Spider-Man's enemies? I forgot. Venom, or some of those other characters like Spider-Man does in the movies. But can our fears sometimes seem just as frightening? They can. But we have a choice. We can respond in fear, or we can respond in faith. Which way should we respond? Faith, right. We'll choose faith. Spider-Man saw the enemies, but he knew, like in this picture, that he had when you flipped it, that he had the backup. See? He had the backup. And we have something better, because there might be enemies in front of us. There might be problems, dangers, fears. But who's got our back? Who's surrounded us with her? Right. God and his angel armies. I think you learned it well. And we've got a color. Who would like to hand out the coloring sheet today? Peyton, I saw your hand first. Would you hand that out? Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Philip. All right.